The world order is being ripped up, reshaped and rewritten. The catalyst, Donald Trump. The president has been to the Middle East on his first major foreign trip of his second term.
You achieved a modern miracle, the Arabian way.
The visit promised big business deals.
What they call perfecto.
And the prospect of ceasefire breakthroughs.
YMCA in the Arabian desert.
But did he deliver?
Are you disappointed in the level of the delegation that the Russians send to Turkey?
I'm not disappointed in anything.
How did the week unfold? And what did we learn about his worldview? There were surprises. I followed him 7,000 miles from Washington, D.C. to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates.
Well, it's Sunday and it's the beginning of a big week because I'm off to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia with President Trump. He's heading there, his first official trip abroad, if you don't count the Pope's funeral. And you know, the funny thing about this is that we really don't know which direction this trip is going to go in. Is there going to be some massive breakthrough on the Ukraine conflict? What about Israel, Gaza? What about the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia? Will some deal be done there? So much to talk about. We'll be following every step of it.
It didn't take long for the news to start flowing. In the time that it took me to fly from London to Saudi Arabia, a flurry of developments. President Zelensky announcing he's prepared to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Istanbul later in the week. It came minutes after Trump, preparing to fly to Riyadh, urged Zelensky to agree to the meeting, and he suggested he could join them.
I was thinking about actually flying over there. There's a possibility of it, I guess.
And then almost at the same time, a separate development, the White House saying that they had secured a trade deal with China, effectively putting a pause on Trump's trade war. And again, at the same time almost, in Gaza, Hamas announced that it would release the last living American hostage held in Gaza after talks with the US. And so arriving in Saudi Arabia, so much news already and in so many areas. Time for a late night live hit from Riyadh.
In terms of this potential release of Eden Alexander, this is massively significant. What's really striking and remarkable about it is that the Israelis appear to have had nothing to do with it. Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's negotiator-in-chief, appears to have been talking not directly with Hamas, but through Qatar and others with Hamas to secure the release of this man.
Monday morning, and it's 40 degrees in the Saudi capital. So much to talk about as we project on Trump's trip ahead.
Donald Trump hopes that whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in Gaza, China, perhaps India, Pakistan, Iran as well, that key challenge, that stars could align and he could walk away from this week, maybe via Istanbul if things go well, to a changed world as he would see it.
Just a few hours later, Donald Trump is back on TV. Well, it is 5 p.m. here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's 10 a.m. in Washington, and I've just had to tune in because Donald Trump is speaking. He's in the White House, reflecting on a remarkable weekend, really. It is pretty hard to keep up at the moment.
Should be fun. I don't know. You'll maybe find reasons why it's not, but I can't imagine because we have a lot of great things happening. It's been a very strong week and a very strong weekend.
Well, he's in the air now for the 14 or 15-hour flight from Washington to here in Riyadh. And I guess it's a moment for me to pause and just anticipate what this week might look like. Trump was last here in Riyadh back in 2017. Incidentally, back then, that was his first foreign trip, as it is now. I was back here in 2019. And, you know, it is a place that changes so fast. It is more confident. It is opening up. Its leader, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is much, much more self-confident than he was. This is a place that has real regional clout. And of course, Donald Trump, he's a different man as well. He is more powerful. He is more confident. He feels like he is on a bit of a wave. And so I think this trip will be very, very important indeed.
Well, this is the unglamorous side of trips like this. We're in a sort of holding centre, a media centre, waiting to get into the investment conference that you can see on the screen up there. That's Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, speaking there. So many members of the US administration are here and hopefully will be in that conference in a little while.
We waited and waited and waited for our credentials. It was a different welcome for the president, an air escort fit for a king, Saudi fighter jets flanking Air Force One on Trump's approach. Then touchdown in Riyadh, down to the tie with the carpet. There is a match between the president and the Crown Prince here to greet him. While the rota of journalists who travel on the president's plane filmed his arrival, we were being shuttled to the conference centre, past the streets of Riyadh now lined with Saudi and American flags.
Well, that took a while, but we have now left the media oasis, as they called it, the holding centre for the media, heading back across town, pretty much to the place where we started the day a few hours ago, to the investment conference. I'm almost in.
Trump is not here yet. After landing, he went straight to the royal court, where, after a lavish arrival ceremony, he signed a $600 billion strategic economic partnership deal with the Saudis, including, we're told, the largest defense sales agreement in history.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died.
Well, you can hear the music. It is the theme tune, effectively, to Trump's presidency, playing now in Riyadh. He has arrived here to address the millionaires, the billionaires at this investment forum. And have a look around. He'll feel very at home here. Just look at all the chandeliers. It really is quite extraordinary. It feels like Versailles in here. And this place, of course, only built a few years ago. It's a real sign of just how far and how fast this country has come.
And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western intervention, giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves.
This was the first hint of a key theme emerging from this trip, a clear and dramatic shift in America's foreign policy. The message to the Middle Eastern monarchies he so admires: you achieved greatness your own way, don't listen to anyone else. It was a less than subtle message to critics back home who see imperial tendencies in Trump. Time to get the reaction from the audience.
About the speech. Okay. Go on. Just a quick word. Just tell us that. So, okay. It might confuse some people. When he's doing his speeches in America, it's all about America first. We don't really care about the rest of the world, seems to be the vibe. And then here, it was a wholly different message, I felt.
I think there's a misperception. I think the truth is that he obviously cares about peace around the world, and he spent his entire 4 or 5 months of his administration sending his emissaries around the world to create peace deals, right?
He talked for 24 minutes. Wow. And I could have listened to another 24 minutes.
Sounds like you're sold.
I am.
Well, that really was a very interesting speech. Despite the tariffs and the upending of the world order that we've seen over the past few months, he struck a really very different tone here in this room to this audience. The tone for me was one of an America open for business. Economically, yes, but politically as well. An America that is seeking to build bridges, to mend divides, to do deals, political deals, economic deals with other countries in the region, even with Syria, with Yemen, with Iran too. It was a really fascinating speech.
The evening was the state banquet, more tradition than spectacle. The end of a long day for us all, where the surprise was the shift in tone from the American president. The takeaway phrase for me: there are no permanent enemies, he said. Wednesday morning brought, you guessed it, more queuing and more buses as we headed to the airport for the next leg of the journey to Doha.
Well, it's been an early start, but we're on the move. You can see the presidential fleet of planes is there. One of the smaller ones there, Air Force One, is over there. And in the foreground, that's the smaller plane that we will be taking now, heading from Riyadh to Doha.
We travelled ahead of the president. He was at the Gulf Cooperation Council, still in Saudi. And in attendance too, remarkably, Syria's new president, Ahmed al-Shara, the leader of the United States, shaking hand with a former jihadi militant, a man who'd been aligned to al-Qaeda, who'd fought the Americans in Iraq. It is indicative of the message from this trip, and I'm sure it will prove to be one of the symbolic moments of the week. And so Trump waved goodbye to Saudi Arabia while we landed for leg 2, the tiny Gulf state of Qatar. on the shores of the Persian Gulf, Iran beyond.
We just arrived in Doha, just ahead of President Trump, and look at that. That is a great sight, isn't it? The horse-backed military, and beyond them, the skyline of a city transformed in such a short space of time.
In the heat, 40 degrees, our cameras went down, and so we moved inside to keep broadcasting. Not long after, he landed in Qatar too, and with a motorcade led by Cybertrucks, the president got the full works. The sword dance, camels, and Arabian horses. Qatar hitting all the right buttons for the American president.
This leg of the trip is less about trade and about money and more about geopolitics, because Qatar has proved itself to be a country that's capable of doing delicate diplomatic deals in a way that few other countries can.
This is the city where the Gaza negotiations happen. Hamas has a political office here. The breakthroughs have come from here. The question now is whether Trump being here can bring about a new ceasefire. But inside, on the face of it, it was more decor than diplomacy.
As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto.
The big question at this point, would Trump go to Istanbul? Remember, he told Zelensky to go to meet Putin there. Would he go? Would Putin go? Questions still unanswered for now.
I know you're very much involved in helping us in other regions, like what's happening with Russia, Ukraine, etc. And I think we're having some pretty good news coming out of there today and maybe tomorrow and maybe Friday, frankly. But we'll see about that.
But there isn't a minute to pause. Trump on the move again, and us too. Another state dinner.
If we act together, we have a real shot at ending the bloodshed and restoring regional confidence.
Waking up in Doha and immediately on the move again. And the morning headlines are of the conflicts of interest for Trump. The plane, that palace in the sky he's poised to accept from Qatar, where he is building golf courses and towers. And then there is the other conflict, the real one, in Gaza. And there is a deeply uncomfortable split screen emerging on this trip now, because as he's lavished and fawned over here, American-made bombs are being dropped for another day on civilians in Gaza. Over 100 killed just this morning. Trump is sticking to his line, and you can't help thinking with all this that he doesn't see the history. He only sees a marketplace, a business opportunity.
You know, I have concepts for Gaza that I think are very good. I think I'd be proud to have the United States have it, take it, make it a freedom zone, let some good things happen, put people in homes where they can be safe.
We're off to America's largest airbase in the Middle East. In the desert outside Doha, Al Udeid is vast.
Well, we're inside the hangar now, and the president is due to arrive in around about an hour. I wanted to show you what will greet him when he gets here, because it's like walking out of the Qatari desert and into an American-style political rally. The only difference is that all the audience here are US soldiers, 8,000 of them that are based here at the airbase. If the gilded palaces of Riyadh and Doha are places where Donald Trump feels at home, well, this here is another place where he feels at home, and he will be there on stage in around about an hour.
The message here, flanked by a drone and a jet, is peace through strength. He said he didn't want to start wars, but made no mention of those he has promised to end.
Pay raises for each and every one of you, substantial pay raises.
Nothing on Gaza, nothing on Iran, and nothing on Ukraine. For all the deals he's signed so far on this trip, there seems to be no progress on those major foreign policy challenges.
The end of a speech to American troops, YMCA, in the Arabian desert. Not much news out of that one, it has to be said. He's off now from Qatar to the United Arab Emirates.
We were held in the airbase as he departed for another short hop along the Gulf. The only opportunity to scrutinise the president on this trip comes from the very few moments we get with him, like the gaggle as it's known on Air Force One.
This has been an amazing trip.
The focus now swinging to Putin and Ukraine.
Look, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay?
He's teasing the idea that he might go to Turkey, but only if Putin goes. In his made-for-TV mind, he's keeping the anticipation high. But the fall for Trump, if Putin doesn't turn up, will be bigger. He'll look weak.
So we'll be leaving tomorrow, as you know. Almost destination unknown.
Not being direct.
A late night, deciphering it all on the TV, and flights held to Istanbul, just in case. Friday in Doha, and somewhere in this city, the Americans and Hamas are in direct talks about hostages and a ceasefire. We know this because a senior Hamas official has confirmed it to Sky News. Bassem Naim told Yalda Hakim talks were on, and he praised Donald Trump.
President Trump has the capability and the will to reach this peaceful situation.
There is a real significance to his words because remember, Hamas has been watching this past week, just like all the rest of us. They've seen him throw an olive branch to the Iranians, their ally. They've seen him sit down with the new Syrian president, once aligned to al-Qaeda. And so he is trying to flatter Donald Trump because he knows that will work well, and he also hopes to drive a wedge between Trump and Netanyahu. Remember, too, that Netanyahu has not featured one bit this past week. In Abu Dhabi, Trump's last stop was a place he can take credit for. The Abrahamic House, a mosque, a church and a synagogue side by side, built to celebrate Trump's achievement in his last term for normalizing relations between Israel and some Gulf Arab countries. He had hoped more countries would sign, perhaps on this trip, but it's a process now stalled because of Gaza. So where are we at the end of a pretty exhausting week? Well, the much hyped Putin-Zelensky-Trump meeting, that never happened, and the latest Russian conditions for a ceasefire seem to set things back. In Gaza, a horrific week has sat so awkwardly with all the pomp here. It really does make you wonder just how much the rulers here really care about the Palestinians. But you know what I've noticed through all of this? The leaders of these Middle Eastern countries have worked Trump out in a way that Europe's leaders have not. The emirs and the crown prince can see how he ticks. They know how to tickle him. With their palaces, their gold, and no requirement for any elections, they have an advantage, yes, but they are playing him well. It is symbiotic. They need each other. But if the economic opportunities and the peace are to be achieved, well, it will require much more than pomp. And for a president who is so starkly unique, in a world on edge, the stakes are high.